Hi, I'm Terry Snell, and this is Christianity Understood. Sin comes in many different forms, not just by what we are used to hearing about, like murder, adultery, thievery. It also includes some less well-known sins, but equally a sin in God's eyes. A sin is a sin, no matter what the sin is. It is still a sin. Stay with me for these few minutes as I explain that we are all sinners, all of us. Let's look at just a few examples of sin. The sins you are about to hear of are hard to hear since all of us are guilty of some of these. Listen carefully and see if you have committed any of these sins. Let's dive right in. Cursing, swearing, obscene words. Ephesians 5:4 tells us, "Nor is it fitting for you to use language which is obscene, profane, or vulgar. Rather, you should give thanks to God." If you have used obscene words in whatever language you speak, then you have committed a sin. Here is another verse against swearing or cursing. Hosea 4:2 says, "There is only cursing, lying, and murder, stealing, and adultery. They break all bounds, and bloodshed follows bloodshed." This verse clearly lumps cursing in with murdering and stealing. In other words, it is just as bad as murdering and stealing. Sometimes we don't think of this being anything big in God's eyes, but it is. How about gluttony? Is anyone guilty of ever overeating? If you have, which most of us have, myself included, then it is a sin. Philippians 3:19 says, "Their destiny is destruction. Their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is set on earthly things." Have any of you men ever looked at a woman in a lustful way? Maybe this woman was dressed provocatively, and you looked a little too long or too often, in person or through images like pornography, for instance, Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. If so, you have committed a sin. Matthew 5:28 says, "But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart." The next couple sins I will go through quickly for the sake of not making this video long-winded. It is not a sin to get a tattoo as long as that tattoo glorifies God. If you got the tattoo to call attention to yourself, it is likely a sin. 2 Corinthians 5:20 and 1 Corinthians 10:31 explain this best. A common verse against tattoos is Leviticus 19:28, which says, "Do not cut your bodies for the dead, or put tattoo marks on yourselves." The key word is "for the dead." This also means memorializing someone who has passed. Again, your tattoo must glorify God. How about divorce and remarriage? There are only two biblical grounds for divorce: adultery and brutality. That is it. No in between. This does not mean divorce because of incompatibility, lack of love, differing opinions, or career goals. If adultery or brutality takes place, divorce and remarriage is okay. If divorced for any other reason, remarriage is not okay and is adultery. So you see, just by looking at a few lesser known sins, I have shown we have all sinned. No one is perfect. I have committed some of these sins myself and still do. But do you know what makes us Christians even though we struggle with sin? Jesus Christ. He died on the cross to cover our sins. This was his whole purpose, to come to earth and die on the cross to save us. If we believe, that's what makes us Christians. The Old Testament said the wages of sin is death. This is why back then they sacrificed animals for their sins. Jesus came so that animals will not have to be sacrificed anymore, and all those who believe that Jesus came to earth and died on the cross and rose again, overwhelmingly and undisputed, Historical evidence for all of this, by the way, will be forgiven for their sins. Just by believing in their heart, you can confess those sins out loud or to yourself. Jesus hears them either way. What a wonderful thing to be able to be forgiven just by asking God. It's as simple as that. If you learned anything during this video message, please leave a comment below and like the video. Until the next video lesson, I'm Terry Snell, and this is Christianity Understood.